rows. Now, those of you who have the little samples that Shannon has pleated will notice the spacing is quite different from anything you've seen before. Don't worry about that. If there's still a straight line there, you can follow. So that's all you need to worry about. So when we start a cable stitch, it's stitched from left to right for those of us who are right-handed, and those of you who are left-handed, you know the drill. You select your first two pleats, leaving a seam allowance to the outside. You come up between those first two pleats with your knotted thread, trying not to pierce your pleating thread. And it's a matter of stitching. Your needle is always going to be held perfect. You see that? Your needle is always held. You know what, Cherise? Let's put that here. Is that better? Okay, I'll stitch upside down and backwards. Will be the first time. You'll be stitching. Your needle is always held parallel to your pleating threads. Always here. How's that? Does that work better?
Will work better for you?
Okay, I just wanted it to get better for there. There we go. Okay, that's good. All right. So you'll start, we're going to start with a down cable. With a down cable, what that means is the thread is down from the row you're following. So you've come up between the first two pleats that you're stitching in. So what you're going to do is, in order to hide that, you're going to start back in your first pleat. Your needle is always pointing to the outside edge. With your thread down, this gets you into position to start. Now, you're going to follow, because I'm stitching this upside down, it may not be perfectly straight. You're going to stitch pulling, this is very important, pull straight across as you're stitching. Now your next stitch is an up cable. So physically pull that thread up. Go to the next pleat. Pull straight across. You see, your thread is already down here. It's telling you that it wants to be down. And you're going to pull this straight across. Now, this is a piece of yarn, so I'm not worrying about whether it's twisting or whether my strands are lying flat, but you're going to want to worry about that. So what I like to do when I take my next stitch, I look to see whether where the strands are coming out of the previous pleat. I look to see that they are flat, that they're not twisted, which obviously you can't see that with this yarn. But it's something else that you also don't want to do is you don't want to pull, if you have a down cable, you don't want to pull it up. You want to pull it straight across, because that's going to change on how it looks. It'll start looking like this if you do that. Now, if you have, for instance, if you have two rows of cable stitch that would be next to each other, oh, that was good. What you want to do is, say you have two rows of cable stitch that mirror image each other and they abut each other. When you do the first row, you want to make that just lie just a needle's width above that pleating thread, because the thread is naturally going to roll back over to it. So when you stitch the row that's immediately underneath it, this would be starting with an up cable. And you're going to let those snug up. You don't want to see any thread. You don't want to see any fabric in between these two. And I realize this just, with this size demonstrator, it doesn't show up very well. But that's what you want to do. You want the first row to be not sitting directly on the line, but just slightly above the line. So the next row can snug right up next to it. Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Did you say that with the one, like the down cable to not to go up like that, but to go to the left?
Yes, and with an up cable, don't pull that down. You want to always want to pull straight across, because doing it the other way is going to, your cables are going to kind of look like that if you're doing it that way.
Huh.
Okay, and let me have a chance to rethread here, and Shannon wanted me to show you about the wave stitch. So let me get some more thread or more yarn. Would it help if someone held the camera over my shoulder?
You trying to,
Would that be worth, instead of doing it on this big? What do you think?
If you sat on this side and did it and I held it over here, would that work?
Or just hold it over my shoulder and to do it with the smaller. Would that be easier so that I'm not stitching upside down and backwards?
I don't know if it's still there, but a while back, there was a video on the Saga website that Vaughn did, only she holds hers entirely different. Yes, she holds hers like this. Yeah, that's right. And
Yeah.
it's like you would be embroidering. And I tried that and I just couldn't.
Now, I like to, for feather stitch, for some stitches, I
Yes.
like to hold my pleats horizontal.
Yeah.
But for most everything, I hold it the other way. Let me try, can you, like, hold it over my shoulder? Can we get in close enough so that you can see, make sure I'm on
Let's
the
see if it, there.
right side? There we go.
Is that good right there?
Yeah, this will be fine. Let me show you the wave stitch.
You come down a little bit, it should focus, like it's out of focus.
Is this supposed to be a practice?
Yes,
Well-
that's just for practice, yeah.
Okay, for a wave stitch, you'll start, your pattern will tell you whether you're starting with whether you're starting with a down cable or an up. Oh, I know something else that I should have mentioned back with the cable stitch is that when you take your stitches, you want to take your stitches as deeply as you can without piercing your pleating thread. You're going to get the most elasticity that way. If you just barely pick up the very tip of the pleat, your thread isn't going to wrap around the pleat to give you a good stitch development. Now we're starting with a cable stitch. Now, a wave stitch is a series of cable stitches with a traveling stitch in between. Now with the basic smocking stitches, every pleat gets a stitch. So you see I have 2 pleats here with the wave stitch. So I go to the next pleat to take the next stitch, but I need to move. And because I'm traveling up, the thread is going to stay down. Now, I'm getting ready to take that cable stitch, but you see, I'm taking my thumbnail and I'm flattening that thread, those 3 strands out so they're not twisted. I do it unconsciously anymore. And then go across with the cable stitch. Now I'm going to be traveling down, so my thread stays up. And I don't know if Martha Pullen first said it or she heard it from somebody else, but how to know where your thread is when you're traveling is you think of a cat going up steps and the cat's going up the steps, its tail is gonna fall down behind him, going down. And if a cat's coming down the steps, its tail is going to be up. I think that was who I heard that from. This has been many years ago. But your cable stitches, like you just did in the straight row. Now, this spacing can change. I'm taking a full space. But you can also do, if your pattern calls for a half space. And for some reason, in the last few years, probably it's the people who sell pleater needles have gotten everyone to thinking that they have to have half space rows. All right. You don't have to have half space rows. They're not necessary. You keep stitching long enough, your eye, you take your needle and hold it between the space, your eye will get to where it knows where that half space is. And if you do a lot of pleating with all of the needles in your pleater, all of the space is taken, it's a lot more difficult to pleat with all those half spaces. I think it was Sarah Douglas, who is the pleater maven, who said the only reason for half spaces is if you're doing doll clothes or if you're doing something that requires a lot of control, like if you decide, and I don't know why you would want to do this, pleat the edge of a sleeve, like a sleeve head. So, don't think you have to use all those half spaces. So basically, with the wave stitch, your thread is held. No, it was just up for the up cable. So I'm keeping it up as I travel down to the next pleat. And now that I'm down as far as I'm going, we'll go for the down cable. And kind of take your opposing, it's what these opposing thumbs are for. And, nudge your stitch into place. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Many, 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 many years ago, when I first learned to smock, I had this big, long hiatus, but I seem to recall that the instructor then said, when you are smocking, don't smock right on top of the thread. Go a hair's width below the pleating thread. Did you do that, or you just?
No, only, what Lynn's question or comment was that she had been taught to not take your stitch directly on top of the pleating thread. That's in case you would pierce it, which you don't want to do. The only time I do not go on that thread is if like I mentioned earlier, if you have two rows of cable stitch, one on top of each other, or if you're going to have, let's say that, let me take this to the back. Well, here, let me come down here and I'm going to come back with another row underneath this. Now I am just slightly taking this first stitch, just slightly, a scant needle's width above that pleating thread so that, grab. Oh, okay. I thought I had another threaded needle. Oh, well, anyway. So that when you come with, take this. So when you come with the next stitch that's going to come up here, I'm just getting into position with this. Okay, now I'm going to mirror image this stitch. So I will take my needle and I will actually slide it up the pleat so that it comes out directly. You can see, there you go. Comes out directly below, spatially, not in depth, that stitch, so that the two stitches hug each other.
They're gonna get like really up close here.
Okay, well, I don't have anything to align it to. So that you can see, because I'm down here now. And somewhere I lost my other thread threaded needle that I have. I'm gonna do another one. Okay, now this one, I'm going to come in with another row, so I'm just barely, you can just barely see the pleating thread above that needle. Take my cable stitch. Okay, now I'm gonna come up and we'll pretend this was a complete row. So when I come up to do in here, we'll pretend that's an up cable, okay? Now, when I come down to meet this stitch, I just slide my needle down and it stops where it needs to stop so that it can make the mirror image stitch. Now, when you want to end off, complete your cable stitch, take your needle and pierce it down through. And again, you don't want to pick up the pleating, you don't want to pierce the pleating thread. I mean, life will not end if you do, but you better not be doing an artisan sampler when that happens. Take it to the back. I got a mess back here. And what you're going to do is, let's first of all pretend that this thread's not here because it's when I was doing that other stuff. Where it comes out, just pick up a tiny couple of threads. Don't knot it yet. Take that wee tiny stitch, and then you're going to knot. You're going to pick up that tiny stitch you just made. You see, I have the thread looped around. Pull it through, and then do it again, going the other direction. Now, if you knot it without taking that tiny stitch, you may distort your stitch on the front side. I learned this from Cindy Foose many years ago, this particular technique. Okay, any questions? And pardon my mask, I'm traveling this weekend and I'm just taking precautions, so. Okay? All right. Here, Joyce.
Thank you, Barbara. I learned something.
Good. We're always learning.
Mhm.
Anyone want any of the patterns that are up here for bishops?
we're going to, Shannon asked me to show you all how to do a tiny French seam. And, I think it was one of this, it might have been Cindy Foose or another, teacher at convention showed me this. But, so I've got a sample and I can pass it on either side. Well, actually, maybe I'll hold, take one and pass this around. Let the girl see. So while I'm talking.
Hold up in front of the computer.
Okay. Okay, so here's my tiny, it's 1/8 of an inch French seam. And the way I get that is when we've done we care gowns, we usually rip them. So we're getting a straight on the grain type of thing. But that leaves fuzzies. And so when I do my we care gowns, I'll take just slightly in on this edge that was ripped. Well, you could see it on this side where it's ripped. And I'll just take a rotary cutter and just slice that right off. Okay. So now I have a clean edge. So this is pretty much a clean edge. And what I'm going to do is on the machine, I set my zigzag to go at 1.5 wide and 3.0 long. So so when I put the two fabrics together, I'll come down and I'll zigzag this right down this edge. And I left part of it open so that you could see the zigzag on the sample. And I don't know if that shows up.
Bring it up. The camera's at the top of the
Oh, okay.
top edge. of the-
I don't know if you can even see it.
No, because it's white on white.
Yeah, it's
No,
white.
once you stop, I can see it. Okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And so that zigzag is going into the fabric on the left, and then on the right, it goes right off of the fabric. So that's how you want to zigzag that edge going down. So it's not really a full rolled hem. It's not really, because it's, I don't know, it's just not. It lays flat. So first you zigzag down the edge. And if you do this, I have a Bernina, so that's the gauge that I work with, but you could do your own machine and see what's best. But it's basically the 1.5 and 3 width. And so you go all the way down, and then I think, yes. These are, your wrong sides are together first. Well, your zigzag, let's see. Well, when you do a French seam, you put your wrong sides together first. And you normally would do just a straight stitch down. Then you'd come back and you trim that close, and then you turn it, iron it, and get it nice and flat, and then go back down with another straight stitch. But this makes this, like, I'm really pulling on this, and this seam is not going anywhere. And so you've got that tiny tight zigzag, and then you turn it, iron it. I think ironing it is the key. It's really the key. First, I press it. I press the seam while it's together like this. Pretend this is the zigzag side, and I've zigzagged all the way down. Then I go to the iron and I press it like that. and it mills those stitches and it sinks them into your fabric. And then I open it up and I'll press this seam, this little seam here, I'll press it to one side. And I give it a good steam. And then I've got to turn it. Now that would be wrong sides would be together, right? Is that right? And I roll it till I've got those two pieces of fabric. They're laying like this. So then I steam it again. So the key is to get a nice crisp is iron. I can't tell you how many We Care gowns I've gotten and I have to re-iron all the seams. And every time you sew, don't be afraid of your iron. Pick it up, give it a talk to it, have a little conversation. Okay, you're looking good. Yeah. So then my last step is just a straight stitch, a 2.0 is what I use for this. And it is, it encases the zigzag in. So I use a different foot. I don't use my regular #1 straight foot. I use the overcast, the hemmer, #5, the hem, and it goes like, you know, but that's the way it would do. Normally it would go back and forth, stitch, 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 straight stitch, back and forth, and then stitch for hemming. But with this, you lay that up there, and I meant to bring that foot, and I sure hope I didn't lose it because I was using it. And I wanted to show you. 5. No, not the 5 groove. No, it's #5. #5. It's a it's the hem stitch. It's the not the hem stitch, it's the hem. What is it called? Blind hem. Blind hem. Thank you. And then you're going to run this through. So here is my foot coming down here. And you know how that foot has like a piece of metal in between here. That metal is right up against, this fabric is right up against there. And so when you go, you're just sewing a straight stitch. And this rests right up there and it fills that hole where you zigzagged. That's how much I've zigzagged, and that fills that your seam so that it's, sometimes I've seen seams that the stitching is out here and you can see the stitching and you can see the excess, the first part. But this way you can butt it right up against it and sew straight down, you're done. Go back, iron it really good, press your seam. If it's to the right or the left, press your seam open and you get a nice straight seam. And sometimes at the very beginning of the stitch, I've found that I don't, my stitching isn't really straight. It's kind of goes, kind of makes a little curve like. It's probably not going to matter because if it's basically because I can't see it where I'm putting that first stitch because it's not clear. You know, the foot is not clear. But all you got to do is put that needle down in it and you can, you know, where you can feel it and you can see it raised. And if you look at it, well, I'm sorry, this is so, you can't see it very well. I just grabbed the first thing I had on the table. This, I should have did it in a darker and a different color. But this was 5:30 that I saw. Shannon said, "Can you bring it tonight?" And I went, yeah, sure. Maybe. Yeah, I just grabbed a piece of fabric. But if you're looking at it, you guys can see here. So that's what I use. So I use the zigzag first, press, go back, and then I do the straight stitch and change the foot. Change it to a straight stitch, 2.0, and go all the way down. Works like a charm every time. And especially when you're doing the we care gowns and you've got that little bit of curve right here, you know, from the sleeve to here. I found that it's better to start at the hem and go up because you're not fighting lace and all that. And once it's going, it goes fine. But to begin, it's not always, it kind of like wants to grab everything and make a knot, and then you're like not happy. So, yes, sometimes I use some tearaway, but I try to just avoid starting at the lace edge if it's possible. Anybody have any questions? Go home, try it. If you have a question, give me an email or a call.
Joy, do you find if you're going to be pleating, like for the bishop, you're going to be pleating across that seam? Do you find that the zigzag, the thread from the zigzag, does that get some extra bulk?
Not when they're, I mean, this is pretty,
Yeah.
this is about what you would probably get in the length of a pleat. So if you get your fabric in not cockeyed, then it usually goes right in. And if you see it's going cockeyed, you can kind of try to adjust that, hold one end back a little or forward, whichever it needs. And that should be, but I like the test. You look up to the light, and if you can see space, then you know you weren't close enough. And you need to go back again. Okay. That's all I got.